Anytime I shoot jewelry, it has to be LED. Don't melt the product.
Good morning, Indy Mogulers. Ted here, and welcome back. Today we're in Brooklyn talking about product cinematography and robots.
Hi, honey, I'm home.
Do you actually need one to do the other? And if you're on a budget, how do you shoot high-end footage that is actually able to make the cut? Well, today we're gonna find out. To get the answers to our questions, we went to go meet up with Kazu Okuda. So, good morning. How you doing? Now, if you don't know Kazu, he's basically the super talented high-end cinematographer. He's shot for Vogue, Elle, Chanel, Omega, Express. The list goes on and on. And that doesn't even begin to cover his product cinematography, which is honestly out of this world.
This is almost embarrassing.
Hey, it's totally embarrassing, dude. It's great. Now, today, Kazu was just shooting some small pickups in his own shop, which turned out to be great timing. Everything wasn't NDA'd out the wazoo, and it meant that we could not only swing by, but also shoot for you guys and ask Kazu some tough questions. And got to play with this little guy. Now, this is just a small portion of our discussion with Kazu, but make sure you check out the full discussion in the podcast link down below.
Still life is the most difficult type of lighting. A model can give you a pose. An actor can give you a smile. But a bottle is a bottle. The bottle doesn't smile, the bottle doesn't turn. So even if the bottle's ugly, you have to make it look good. There's no happy accidents with products.
Now, when Kazu says smile and happy accidents, he's talking about what almost all filmmakers will die for. He's talking about emotional and genuine moments.
The light hitting his face with this phenomenon happening on the windows happened to hit his face one time. And you can see the water running down, and it drips around. And he's talking about his father, and it's very sad. He's going to be hanged, but he's playing it very straight, unemotional.
But I do.
And the visuals were crying for him. Nobody conceived it. It was purely a visual accident.
The point is that in product photography, you have no person to smile at you. There's nobody to give you a real, genuine moment. All you've got is this product, this brick of a thing that won't take your direction, that won't give you anything, that won't make it look good, that you gotta make look good anyways. So, how do you make product footage look good? Like masterfully good, without much budget?
Initially, I think shallow depth of field product shots look inexpensive. With product, when you shoot too shallow, unless that is the creative and that is the look you're going for, it just looks like you don't have enough light.
Don't shoot shallow depth of field. And I love this tip because I think it gives a nice bird to a lot of the amateur filmmaking advice that you hear. Now, when you're just starting out, it's all about this word right here. Again, no rules, just trends. Can you shoot great looking, shallow depth of field product footage that looks good and makes the cut? Of course you can, it happens all the time. It just means that generally when you shoot shallow depth of field, it means that you're shooting at a low f-stop, which lets in more light. You know that, you're on YouTube. So when you shoot product photography with a lower f-stop, you're making it look like you need to let in more light to properly expose your image. It looks like you can't afford the time or the cost of the lights to shoot at a higher f-stop, which Kazu is saying, in turn, makes your footage look cheap. Now, if you miss the 3D quality that you have from shallow depth of field, try adding in a little bit of color contrast or trying more 3D camera moves.
2, keep the motions simple. Really make it about the product.
Now, when people think of great cinematography, I get it. They think of these kind of crazy camera flips or impossible moves. And yes, while that stuff is exciting, if you're on a budget and you can't afford to execute those moves, go small and go simple.
Most of the shots, besides really complicated like hero landing shots, are completely doable on like a slider or a jib. You know, if you don't need a 360 spin, you don't do a 360 spin. But it is always nice to have two perspectives moving.
Yes, while you should keep your shots as simple as you can execute them to perfection, if you can handle a little bit more complexity, what Kazu is saying is that it helps to move two axes at the same time. Now you can do this by combining two tools that you afford, like a Lazy Susan and a slider, or a dolly and a jib, just something to make the move a little bit more dynamic.
You're saying use a Lazy Susan, use like a turntable.
Yeah, I mean, I probably use it for 80 to 90% of the execution on shots.
And finally, here is the last and most important tip.
Study the product you're shooting, especially anything that's metallic. There's two types of metallic. There's matte and then there's chrome. The last thing you want to do is make a chrome product look flat and matte. You can get a shot completely rejected and the shoot completely fail because the texture does not look like what you want it to look like.
Now, this one is more of an advanced tip. In fact, the longer that I talked to Kazu about it, the more I realized I needed to learn about it. It's basically how every material needs to be lit to look a certain way and look good. The same lighting scheme is not going to work for different products. In fact, if you're shooting sunglasses like Kazu was shooting on that day, you got to make sure that the lenses reflect light in a way that makes them look best. And that's super hard. But fortunately, Kazu was also super nice. So probably about 2 hours ago, I texted him. I was like, yo, can a bunch of Indy Mogul guys bug you on Instagram and send you questions and or possibly pics? Got to take care of the family. So here is Kazu's Instagram. Check him out, ask him some questions. And in the meanwhile, I've got an important question. If we can already get amazing product cinematography using the tips that Kazu gave us, why on earth do we need this thing? This is a Bolt high-speed Cinebot. Why on earth do you possibly need this crazy thing? What could it possibly offer in terms of smooth motion that I can't already get with something cheaper?
One is repeatability. It's precise to the pixel. Also, focusing. Sometimes you're executing shots that are very complicated or large moves or very shallow depth of field that you absolutely need it focused at all times. The other two things is actually talent availability. You know, I've done shoots that there's multiple talents and one set, but because of availability, especially celebrities, they are all not available at the same time, but the shots have to look as if they are all there at the same time. Even with extras, right? Like, big one is actually the Saving Private Ryan Normandy. I spoke to some of the guys who worked on that, and they told me that shot, they only had about like 50 extras or something in that shot, and they shot 2 days of those same 50 guys dressed indifferently and in different positions, and just did the Milo. Repeat.
Repeated the shot and multiplied the people all over.
Yes, and they composited it together, and it looks like 2,000 people rolling up into the beach.
Now, let me say this up front. This is not sponsored by Bolt. But yes, repeatability is a key reason why you may need a Bolt. While you might be able to get the full range of motion by using a gimbal or a Steadicam, because we're all still human, that means that none of us should be able to execute the same camera move twice. So while I don't actually think that any of us have the money to afford a Bolt or a Milo, I do think it's important to understand why people use them so that we can inform our decisions in the future. Now, do you actually want to try to pull off a perfectly executed 360 shot on a slider and a jib? No, probably not. But believe me, I've regularly used Kazu's tips to produce a lot of high-end looking product cinematography for Apture's commercials. And regular tools like a slider, a jib, a Lazy Susan, paired with a little bit of production design and elbow grease can give you some amazing looking product footage. Well, there you have it, guys. That's it for me. I'm Ted, and this is Indy Mogul. If you like this episode, make sure you hit that like button down below. Click that subscribe button to find more episodes like this. And make sure you find the entire podcast with Kazu Okuda in the link down below.
Basically, it was a few days after the Haiti earthquake, and they sent me out to Haiti, which I didn't know the camera, so I read the whole manual on my flight.
Also, make sure you tune in next week when we go sit down with Matt Workman to learn about pre-visualization.
Do I driving the techno crane now?
Oh my God, look at this.
Once again, I'm Ted from Indy Mogul. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
This is the key to product cinematography.